Something that the vast majority of us struggle with in our fast-paced world today is committing to too many things and then feeling regret, feeling like, oh, I'm locked into this now, feeling like I had a lot of energy, I had a lot of hope, a lot of optimism back when I committed to this, and now here I am the day of, or dreading it tomorrow and thinking, oh crap, what have I gotten myself into? I feel drained, I don't want to do this. And this can apply to both events, signing up for social engagements or workshops or classes or hanging out with a friend, or to ideas, committing to too many projects, having too many things on your to-do list. And in this video, I'm not going to talk about specific productivity tips or time management tips or apps or anything like that. I'm going to talk about some more fundamental strategies for dealing with this sense of how to avoid overburdening, overcommitting, over scheduling, and what to do if you realize you've done that and you kind of regret it. So I'm going to offer you 4 tips today. The first one is to notice your patterns and get familiar with where you tend to fail here, where you tend to mess up, and create some rules for yourself to avoid that happening in the future. So one example from my life, I'm going to let my kitty out here. Go on. One example from my life is that I realized a few years ago that whenever I am at a multi-day event away from home, some kind of retreat or long workshop or festival or whatever it is, if I'm away for several days, that when I get home, I need to give myself a day off. I can't just start seeing clients on Monday, or I will just feel especially drained by the end of the day. And what's tricky here is that I'm an extrovert. I'm an ENTP. And so sometimes this has been hard because I can convince myself in the days leading up to the big event, I feel really excited. I feel like, oh, wow, I have so much energy. Of course I can see people on Monday. Of course I can schedule things for when I get back. I'm feeling great now. That was a problem with old Michael. Maybe old Michael ran out of energy, but new Michael is totally fine. This is going to be great. And then, of course, Sunday comes around, and I start dreading, oh crap, what did I get myself into? Why did I schedule this for Monday? Right? So the solution is to recognize this keeps happening and make a rule for yourself. In my case, when you're away for the weekend, doing some big event, even if you're an extrovert, even if you're around a lot of people all weekend, if it's a multi-day thing, try to take time off when you get back. And I know that's not possible for all of us, but that's just an example from my life where I happen to have flexibility in my scheduling. So I invite you to check, what is your tendency? Where do you tend to get in a pattern of, when someone has a problem, do you feel like it's my responsibility, I have to fix this for them, I have to be available, it's all up to me? Whatever your version of it is, how could you make a rule with specific, if-then statements, right? If this happens, if this does not happen, then I must do this. Tip number 2 is recognize that what can happen sometimes is our minds go faster than our bodies and emotions can keep up with. So your mind might be thinking, wow, idea, project, person, event, wow, yay, so exciting, I want to do them all. Right? And you get so caught up in that you allow your mind to run the show and sign you up for things, commit to things, but you haven't actually checked in with your body and your emotions to see, is the rest of me on board? Can the rest of me commit to this? And so the solution here is to notice when your mind is moving very quickly and take a deep breath, close your eyes, slow down, and check, how am I emotionally right now? Is all of me excited here? Is all of me feeling like, yes, I'm a full body yes. Every part of me is saying, oh yeah, I can do this. This is awesome. Or is there some resistance? Do you feel tightness anywhere? Do you feel squeezing anywhere? Do you feel heaviness? Do you feel some part of you kind of cold or doubtful? Do you feel heaviness? Does your body feel tired? Right? So kind of getting a yes, not just from your mind, but from your whole self. Step number 3 is asking yourself, how do I recharge? And this is going to be different for different personality types. For some people, to recharge, they really need alone time. For other people, they actually recharge by being around other humans. Right? And that's kind of a very basic introvert-extrovert thing, but there are variations of each of those. Like for ENTPs, I've found that it's often not just being around other people that recharges us. It's being in deep connection, having interesting conversations, feeling challenged, feeling curious. That's the type of connection that recharges us. It's not just going to a party, hanging out. So really getting clear with yourself on what specifically is it that recharges you. And, for most of us, a very basic thing that recharges us is movement, some kind of physicality, whether it's, working out, going for a run, even just doing some jumping jacks, even just getting up from your desk, right? If you've been sitting still for a while and you're feeling your energy depleted, even just getting up and moving around, doing a different activity for a while, doing the dishes, doing the laundry, whatever it is, so you're moving, that is going to be kind of a core way of boosting energy that it's easy to neglect when we're spending a lot of time trying to figure out analytical solutions, right? There's often something much easier than that, to just get up and do something. Another one can be meditation, that if we're feeling depleted, just sitting in silence and just focusing on something simple like the breath for a while, that can be rejuvenating. But anyway, it's really dependent on the person. We're all unique. So I invite you to spend some time really contemplating what specifically is it that recharges you? What is the specific set of criteria? And recognizing, too, that, part of this is, I think about when we're in school, and imagine, there's a boring lecture and you're trapped in class and you're just thinking, oh God, I'm so sleepy. I just want this to end so I can leave this stupid classroom and go take a nap, right? But then as soon as the bell rings and you walk out of that classroom, suddenly you're totally rejuvenated. Suddenly you're totally energized, right? So I think that example shows how much our energy level can be influenced by the framing of the mind and the situation that we're in, the mind state that we're in, the emotional state, the physical state. It's not just, it's easy to convince yourself when you're in that classroom that you are physically depleted, that your body is actually exhausted, that you need to sleep. But the truth is, it wasn't that your body was exhausted. It was that you were not getting what you needed in that moment. Right? You were trapped in this place where you had to listen to this teacher droning on, and maybe you weren't allowed to ask questions, or it didn't feel safe to ask questions, or whatever, or it wasn't a conversation. You weren't allowed to move. You had to sit in your seat, right? So there were different circumstances that were inhibiting your needs from getting met. But as soon as you're able to get up out of your chair and walk out of that room, suddenly the tiredness disappears. And so how can you find your version of that in the modern world? Right? If you were trapped at your desk doing work, or trapped in a boring conversation with a stranger or something, how can you get your version of leaving the classroom and feeling rejuvenated? And finally, the fourth tip is to practice saying no, to practice changing your mind. And this can be really scary, especially when, so many of us worry about disappointing others. And so if you've made a commitment with a friend, for example, you've promised to hang out with them, you don't want to say no. You don't want them to be disappointed. You don't want to hurt their feelings. You don't want them to judge you. You don't want them to stop being your friend. And so the best way of doing this is, first of all, check in with yourself. You wake up in the morning and you're feeling like, oh God, this is not a good state. I slept terribly. I'm not feeling good. And so once you get clear on that, checking like, well, is this the kind of thing where I'm feeling crappy right now, but once I see this friend, I'm going to be excited. I'm going to be rejuvenated. Great. If you know that about yourself, again, from the previous one of how do you recharge, then maybe you kind of force yourself to go anyway. Yes, I'm not feeling great now, but I know that once I get there, I am going to feel good. So that's a possibility. But if you know, I'm just in a crappy mood, this is not going to get better, or, this, if I'm being really honest, I'm not really excited to see this person, then a different strategy is required, right? So if you want to, well, first, one thing you can ask yourself is, if you're worried about hurting their feelings, or if you're worried about disappointing them, you can imagine, what would they actually want for you if they knew your state? If they knew how depleted you were, or how depressed you are, or how anxious you're feeling, or how exhausted you are, whatever it is, would they want you to rally yourself, push yourself to go hang out with them? Right? Hopefully, if this is an actual friend or someone who actually cares about you, they would say, no way. Stay at home, take care of yourself, take a nap, take a bath. Whatever you need to feel better. Don't force yourself to suffer just to come hang out with me and keep that agreement that we made, right? We made that agreement assuming that you were going to be in good shape, that you were going to be feeling good. So the rules have changed now. If you're not feeling good, then I want you to stay home, right? This is just a conversation in your head, but you could also have it in person. You can also have that conversation for real, right? You could text them or call them or leave them a voice memo or something and explain the situation. Like, hey, how would you feel if I canceled today? I want you to know a bit of the context. Like, I really didn't sleep well last night, and I'm willing to show up for you if you really need me, but I want you to know the information that I'm actually feeling really crappy. So how does that feel? How does that land in you? And then you give them the option. Maybe they say, you know what? I really need a friend right now. I really have something on my mind that's really important to talk about, and I really need you. Cool. Then maybe that influences you and you say, you know what? I care about you. Even though I'm feeling crappy, I'm going to go hang out with you. But maybe they say, no way. Let's reschedule. No worries. Doesn't matter. Right? Once they hear about your experience, it's no big deal. So one of the most important things you can do if you're canceling on someone is, if you actually care, if you actually want to hang out with them, then try to immediately reschedule. Instead of just saying, sorry, I can't hang out tonight, you say, I'm sorry, I'm feeling really crappy today, but you're important to me. I do want to hang out with you. So how about next Saturday instead? Is there another time that would work well for you? If you do that right away, or you do that as soon as possible, you follow up the next day or whatever, then that reassures them that you actually do care, even if you canceled. So that's how you can take care of yourself while also avoiding hurting the relationship. And it's true that you might also disappoint them. That's real. And it's unfortunate, but ultimately, everyone gets disappointed sometimes. And it's okay. This person's an adult, presumably, and it's up to them to deal with that disappointment. But if you reassure them that I do care about you, this relationship is important to me, I want to reschedule, then hopefully they can see your sincerity. All right? So the 4 tips again are, notice your patterns, learn your patterns, make up rules for yourself in advance, if-then statements. Number 2 is really check your body, not just your mind. Do I have the energy for this in my body? Do I feel tightness in my body, or do I feel openness, expansiveness around this? Number 3 is figuring out in detail, how specifically do you recharge? How can you give that to yourself if you're feeling depleted? And then number 4 is allowing yourself to change your mind, allowing yourself to cancel or reschedule, even if you made that commitment in advance. All right. So I'd love to hear how this lands with you in the comments, and I hope you have a nourishing day.